The Xbox Drive is powered by the You, Me, and Capri Patreon. We want to say thank you to some people, starting with our Diamond executive producers, Slimer Snarf, Lee Navarro, and Jonathan Brown. Also, our Platinum producer, Robbie Bobby Miller. And then to our Gold level patrons, like James Johnson, Jean K, Skinny Matt, Ashley Nicholson, Becky Grockmall, Trucker Sloth, Argo, Ryan Turford, Egg Shen, and Ray Sony Pony Martinez. Thank you everyone for all of your support.
Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri. I'm in my car and you're listening or watching to the most horsepowerful podcast on the internet. It's the Xbox Drive. I'm on a Skype call with my friend Ryan Turford. He's the man on the moose, and on our journey today, we're going to fly up for all of the Star Wars with Squadrons and a bunch of other stuff. So jump on into the Xbox Drive. Blah, 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 blah. We got video now. Ball.
Greater than X.
Hello, Sean Capri.
Ryan Turford, today is a momentous occasion for us, my friend. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm okay. I actually, you know what? I've got the heat a little bit too high. It was a chilly morning. I don't need the heat up that high. We're not into winter just yet. Winter is still coming, as they say, Ryan.
Well, I thought because you were living in Edmonton, I mean, winter was just always there. I thought that was just how it worked.
Cars just default to heat mode when they know they're here.
Of course. Mm-hmm. But you kind of hit the nail right on the head at the beginning of the show. Today's a momentous day for the Xbox Drive, and it's something that we've been building up to for a while now. Sean and I have been busy behind the scenes prepping for this because we have a YouTube channel now, Sean. Can you believe it?
Yeah, man. I can't. This is something that I've wanted to do with the Xbox Drive for a very long time. And honestly, it kind of takes you, man. Like you have been the missing piece to all of this. And, because it's the show is simplistic in its approach. This was always supposed to just be like I'm just going to drive to work. And in the early days, it was my phone and like the iPhone, like microphone, right? Like it was just like the in-ear, the earbuds kind of thing. But I always thought like that what is happening here, the fact that I'm driving, it's like, well, it's too bad that like, you can't see that, it's got to be one of the more kind of intriguing notions of a podcast, and you can hear it. And we go to McDonald's and everything else, but like, it's got to be one of the most visually interesting podcasts. Now it's like carpool karaoke, but we're talking about Xbox. And the next step is for me to just drive over to your house and pick you up. Like that's kind of where I would love for this to go.
That's really far away though, Sean.
It will set records for the world's longest and most boring podcast of all time as I travel across the country. But dude, this is a big deal, and it couldn't happen without you. And I don't think that we would necessarily be motivated to do it without so many amazing people who listen and tune into the show and send us their encouragement as well, my friend.
So for sure. So here's what I'm going to say for those listening to the podcast. If you want to check out this podcast on video, plus other videos that we're doing, which you're actually going to see a whole bunch of video live at the time of this recording, which I'll get to in a second. I left a link to our YouTube channel in the show notes. We don't have a custom URL yet because we need people to subscribe to, we need 100 subscribers before we can get youtube.com/the Xbox Drive. That's the goal, Sean. That's the first goal. We got to get that 100 subscriber goal. But on the channel right now, you can actually see my review of the 8BitDo SN30 controller for Android devices. Also, we're doing the roundabout top 10 in video format. So
that's awesome.
The Gears of War 3, Halo 3, and Ninja Gaiden 2 episodes are all live at the time that you're listening to this. We also will be doing that as the roundabout releases every week. So every Monday up until the end of the roundabout, including the final episode in November, you'll get to see all of those on the YouTube channel. But that's not all, Sean, because there's also the Extra Mile is coming to YouTube as well. So starting with Crash Bandicoot 4 and Star Wars Squadrons, those two Extra Miles are up and coming, and we haven't set exact release dates for those yet. But those will all be on video as well as anything else we've got coming forward. For example, if we get cool stuff to unbox, I will do unboxing for those on the channel with all kind and go kind of in depth about that stuff. Especially with there might be this console coming out in November, Sean, that you might have heard of. We might be doing some cool stuff with that in November. So look out for that on the channel and all kinds of awesome stuff. So if you like what we do and you want to see our cool faces, definitely check out our YouTube channel, like and subscribe, do all the things the YouTubers tell you to do. And we'll go from there.
Ryan, I kind of want to do a reboxing, as everybody's going to be doing like unboxings for the Series X. I'm gonna video myself putting my 1X away. I'm just gonna rebox it. Yeah, that'll be a good way to. Yeah, well, I don't want to set it on fire, but I do want to find a reason to do a Viking funeral for something. I will find it, but that is for another day. Ryan, I want to touch on something really quick before we jump on through to the other things, because it's a big deal about this YouTube stuff. And our good friends at Xbox Canada want to help us celebrate the launching of our YouTube channel. So they've been very kind. They've provided us with a couple of codes for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, some 3-month codes that we're going to be giving away. So starting today, if you guys go on to the YouTube channel and you hit subscribe, you're going to be entered in to win one of many and a few of these 3-month codes for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So jump on in there. Let us know that you guys have subscribed. And we want to get to that 100 subscribers as quickly as humanly possible, so that the URL is youtube.com/the Xbox Drive.
It'll just make it super easy to say rather than the like gobbledygook
youtube.com/1/CD.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just a random mess right now. So yeah, it would be super helpful for us if y'all do that. Plus, then you'll know when our content goes live.
Totally.
Which is super helpful as well. Because our content, of course, is always all over the place. It's never consistent, right, Sean? That's how that works.
Well, I think we're pretty okay on that front. And the other thing
let me have this, Sean.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you something else too. Something very important for the listeners to hear that we haven't really done too much fanfare about. For the patrons of patreon.com/Yumi Capri, they know this. They've heard some whispers. We've given the patrons a bit of a sneak peek, and it's also another reason why you might want to sign up to patreon.com/Yumi Capri, along with all the other benefits. The other reason that you might want to jump in is Bobby, the Nintendo Guru, and I, who run the Yumi Capri Patreon, we have invited Ryan Turford in. He is now a paid, employee, a paid person, a paid member of the Yumi Capri Patreon. So when you're paying into the patreon.com/Yumi Capri, you're supporting myself, Bobby, the Nintendo Guru, and everything that he does. And you're also supporting Ryan and all of the work that he is now taking on to edit the video, to edit the podcast, to do all of the posting. So this is something that I feel very strongly about, that I didn't want Ryan to be doing any of this while, Bobby and I are gallivanting on with our own Patreon. Ryan is now a paid member of the Patreon, and it's perfect. I'm so happy about it, and I think that everybody's going to be really stoked about what we've got coming on for the Xbox Drive and everything else related to that Patreon, my friend.
Yeah, it's super exciting to be part of it. I'm so happy that you guys invited me in, and now I feel part of the family now, which is, man. Super cool. And not only that, but I think that this is going to allow us to do so much more with the podcast going forward, because we're going to be transitioning to more than just a podcast, but the core podcast is still going to be remaining the same.
Yeah, man.
We're not really going to change this this episode is just going to be the same as normal. It's just us blabbing for 7 minutes about all the cool stuff that's coming.
Right.
But for the most part, all the other episodes going forward are just going to be your usual Xbox Drive affair. But obviously I have so many, someone with a video background who does video for a living at my day job. I have so many ideas for different videos and stuff that we can do going forward.
But are they as good as reboxings? Are you going to do a reboxing, Ryan? Can you top that?
I can, maybe. We'll see about that.
Of course you can.
I've got I've got some pretty good ideas. So yeah,
sweet.
All that stuff is super awesome, but it's in the future.
Oh, hi there. Can I please get a medium decaf with 2 Splenda? And can I also get a carrot muffin with that?
Is that everything?
That'll be all.
Okay, first window.
Thank you. Okay, Ryan, that's on video for the first time. Can you believe it?
There you go. People know officially that you actually go to McDonald's. And you don't fake the McDonald's trip.
That's the thing I forgot to mention. Really, the reason we're doing this video thing is because we started to have a concerning number of people say, like, I don't believe that you're actually driving. So there you go. Okay, I'm in the car.
It's officially confirmed. People know. Well, Sean, while you pull up and get your muffin and your coffee, I'm gonna go real quick to this poll that we ran last week, because Sean, for some reason, doubted that people actually cared about games with gold. But I always, me, I always like to shout out the games with gold. Just in case
let's
there
see
is something.
What does the poll say? What does the poll say, Ryan?
So we ran a poll asking y'all what y'all thought about this. So we got 31 total votes, and the winner with 54.8% of the votes.
Wow.
Yes, we like
Resounding.
that you cover games with gold. I mean, it's a split decision, Sean, but you know what? It's split in my favor, and I just have to gloat about that. That's just
that's fair. Okay, yeah, you can have your 3% win. But that's just, you know what, man? Every vote counts. We'll just say that.
Every vote counts. Well, it's more than 3% when it's a 10% difference between the two, Sean. Come on.
Fair.
Let's
well,
use
whatever.
actual math
I'm saying
here.
3 points. 3 points. Anyways, yes. So we will continue. But I will not halt myself from griping about it when they
That's
do come
fine.
up and they're lame games. You guys can have it, but I might just be like, really?
You never
Really?
know. There might be a month where there's a cool game on there, Sean. You
Maybe.
never know.
Fair enough.
Also, last thing, real quick before we get into the show proper, you were on another show, Sean, the Iron Lords podcast this week. Tell me about that.
Dude, the Iron Lords podcast is amazing, and I think a lot of people in that community have supported us in the past. It's the second time I've been on the show, and it's just an absolute honor. And what those guys have going on over there is really, really special. They've got an incredible community, and so they invited me on. I canceled all my plans. Yes, that's right. I canceled all my plans. I wanted to make sure I was on there. So yeah, man, I had a great time, and just really grateful that they did that. Thank you, you two.
That's awesome. Yeah, I checked out some of it. I checked it out while you guys were live streaming. I haven't gone back and watched the VOD, but it was cool to see both you and Jez Corden.
Jez Corden. I didn't know he was going to be on the show with me there. Thank you so much. I didn't know he was going to be there, and then all of a sudden it's just like his name kind of like popped up, and I kind of put a couple, the voice and then the name together. I'm like, oh snap, this is Jez Corden. And so he said a couple things that we're going to be addressing in some of the questions in the carpool a little bit later. But yeah, totally amazing to be on that show. And actually, one person in the chat remembered me from FanFest last year when they gave Luke and I an opportunity to talk about our podcast. They were just like, they asked who in the crowd had met each other for the first time there at E3 at FanFest. And so Luke and I put up our hands and we were like, yeah, we started a podcast called the Xbox Drive-In to the whole crowd. And so somebody else was actually there in the crowd, and then they were in the podcast chat. So really just small world. This Xbox community continues to amaze me, and yeah, man, just a pleasure to be on that show for sure.
That's awesome. Well, Sean, let's grab our 8 tracks, pop them in. It's time for the playlist, and we didn't really play too many games this week, but there were 2 big games that came out this weekend. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about them. So let's talk about the game that you and I both played together.
Yeah.
Literally, because we literally played it together last night. Star Wars Squadrons. Sean, I know you're playing the trial on PC. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I have the trial as well. The reason I'm playing it on PC is actually that's the first place that I saw it, because I think we were kind of questioning if this was actually going to be a thing, and then I just kind of loaded up my EA Play app or whatever it is and saw that the trial was there. I'm like, oh snap! I didn't even know. So I downloaded it. And I've got 10 hours there. I think I also have another 10 hours that I can do on Xbox. But I'm still playing with a controller. I'm still playing with my Xbox One controller. So I feel like it's a pretty comparable experience. The trial limits me to the prologue missions of the story, and then it kind of cuts off from there. And then the multiplayer experience, for the most part, I think is similar to what you're on. And I'm having a pretty good time with it. I like where they set things up with the story, but maybe I'll turn it over to you with to talk a little bit more on the single player side.
Okay, so as far as the single player is concerned, I'm actually not too far in the single player just because it's been a super busy week, kind of outside of work. But for me personally, but at the same time, I'm like on the 4th mission right now. And I'm actually having a really good time with the single player, more so than the multiplayer, which, as you could definitely tell last night when we were playing together, Sean, I'm struggling a little bit, especially against PC players specifically. I find that for whatever reason or another, I find that they have a pretty big advantage over local Xbox games, because there's a way to toggle it in the game itself to just play against console users as opposed to mixing in with the giant pool. And I think those games I definitely noticed that I'm doing much better in. It's just for whatever reason, I guess.
Interesting. Okay, I should try over on Xbox too.
Yeah, because I found when we were playing last night, for example, in multiplayer, like 2 or 3 like other opposing fighters would gang up on me, and I would be screwed unless one of my friends jumped in, and that would be a consistent pattern. Because I was finding much more coordination in the PC space than the console space, and I think that's why I was doing a little bit better. Whereas like when you and I were playing last night, we weren't on voice chat or anything like that, so it was tough for us to coordinate any attacks or anything like that.
That's a good call. Yeah, we should have jumped on. Why didn't we?
I don't know. That's a good question. So
We should have done that.
So what I was going to say is that I think the multiplayer in that game, what I like about it is that there's a big focus on coordination, and coordinated parties do so much better than uncoordinated parties. So if you have a group of 6 friends together, this is like the perfect game for you guys. Like this would be amazing to play with, even with the community, because I think having a well put together squadron together just gives you such a leg up over everyone else. And I think even more than something like Call of Duty, like it kind of reminds me of Battlefield in a lot of ways, where Battlefield is another game that's very strategic and really relies on you working together with your teammates. And that being said, though, even though I'm kind of struggling a bit with the multiplayer, I'm still having a huge fun time with this game.
It's Star Wars. You're flying in these Star Wars ships, like, of course. And to your point about like the coordination, I think has a lot to do with the fact that the ships are so different. The experiences you have from an X-wing to a Y-wing to an A-wing to everything else, like there's actually a support ship there as well that you can start to cater to your playstyle. And I was getting shot up like crazy in my X-wing, and you're like, try the A-wing, and I was avoiding it because it didn't have a lot of shields, it didn't have a lot of hull, but it definitely makes up for it on the speed side of things. So yeah, definitely I'm having a ton of fun with it. It definitely brings me back to the good old days of X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and those old games. And yeah, man, it's just Star Wars, you know? It's just, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Well, not only that, but this is the type of game I've wanted forever, like a Star Wars flight shooter game. We haven't had one since Rogue Squadron 3 on the GameCube. So I mean, I've been waiting for this moment forever. And while I wouldn't say the experience is perfect, it's exactly the type of experience I was looking for. The single player in particular, which I'm not going to go too deep into because I think that is going to be on Save for the Extra Mile, where I'm going to go really deep on the single player campaign after I finish it. I think that's where it really feels like Rogue Squadron, like the way that they do the briefings and stuff like that feels straight ripped from that game. And I really like the setup in the single player a lot. And actually I've done much better in the single player than the multiplayer.
And that's usually the way things go for me in these, like when there is a single player campaign and multiplayer, typically I would run through the single player and kind of get used to like the controls and the different buttons. Early in the stream last night, I was kind of getting used to, like, again, just like press B, you can kind of, if somebody has a missile targeted on you, you can hit B to launch some countermeasures. And so kind of like destroy the missile behind you. This guy's coming right up on my tail. Holy crap. So yeah, man, lots of different tactics and things that I'd like to learn through the single player campaign. But you know, there's so many games to play that this is one of those things that I'm really grateful for the trial. I think that I'll just like use up my 10 hours in multiplayer on the PC. I can jump over to Xbox and use 10 hours over there. And I can wait for this game to, like, I can see this is already a budget kind of game. You know, it's $40 US. I think it's what, 55 in Canada. So, and I can still wait. You know, I'll get my fill and play this multiplayer every once in a while. But a quality EA Star Wars game for 2 years in a row, which I think is solid.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so thankful we have this game, and I'm going to continue to play the crap out of this game going forward. I think, especially for the month of October, where we kind of have a bit of a drought after this week up until Watch Dogs Legion comes out at the end of the month. Right. So there's gonna be lots of time to play this. I mean, the only other game I'm thinking about playing this month is G.I. Joe, because I'm a big fan of G.I. Joe. And that game looks like silly fun, and I'm excited to check it out
of course.
In the middle of this month. But other than that, there's like nothing else coming out. So I think that this is going to kind of dominate the month of October for me. Speaking of dominating my time, though, the other game that I dove into a lot this week, and this is part of the other reasons why I haven't jumped too much into Star Wars yet, is because I've been playing a ton of Crash Bandicoot 4. It's
Have you really?
Time. Yeah, this game is awesome. Like,
is it?
Yeah, it's probably my favorite Crash game. Now, here's the thing, and we haven't talked about Crash too much on the show because
I poo-poo all over it.
I wasn't part of the podcast crew when the Insane Trilogy came out, but I was never someone who was into Crash growing up or anything like that. Like, I didn't play the Crash games on PS1 until after I played the Insane Trilogy. Like, the Insane Trilogy is where I got my start with Crash. And it was a franchise I never really connected with, but the Insane Trilogy really got me into things, and it really I love the really tough 3D platforming, and the 2D platforming sections in particular. I'm a big fan of. I mean, folks know that I love 2D platforming games, so I love those sections a lot in Crash. And Crash Bandicoot 4 takes all of the lessons that I think that the team learned from doing the Insane Trilogy, and then created an amazing game that just feels like it picks up right after Crash Bandicoot Warped. Like it really feels like those old games, very similar to what we talked about with Tony Hawk, where it nails the feel of those old games while also refining that for modern audiences. For example, you don't have to play with lives anymore, or continues. You can play straight through it, but the game rewards you for not dying because you can earn gems that unlock cosmetics, and these gems.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and the gems, for example, one of the gems for each level is beat the level without dying more than 3 times. For example.
Right.
So it rewards you for playing through the level and
that's
not
clever.
dying, for example. So there's a lot of little clever hooks, and the cosmetics are actually pretty cool in this game. There's no microtransactions of any kind. It's all earned in game. You basically can earn 1 skin for Coco or Crash for each level that you play, and each level has a certain gem objectives that will unlock those for you. So yeah, man, I'm having a great time with Crash Bandicoot 4. I'm gonna save that conversation again for the Extra Mile, which is gonna be coming out soon, and I'm so excited to talk about this game though because I'm having so much fun with it, and it's probably in my top 10 games of the year so far. I was just thinking, like you played a ton of games this year, so it's not like you're doing top 10 by default this year. It's I'm not struggling to find games to fill that list, and
nice,
and definitely Crash is definitely up there for me. I'm not finished it, but I'm on like the last world essentially.
Right.
It's very similar to a game like Donkey Kong Country, where you'll go to a bunch of different islands, and there's a bunch of different levels in each one,
right,
and you kind of progress that way. So it's very similar to that progression. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun with that game, but we're gonna slam the brakes on this conversation, Sean. It's time for some breaking news. We got a few news stories this week. It's been a bit of a slow news week in the world of Xbox, especially given the last couple weeks. We've had so much info to go through, but some of these are pretty cool. So this first news story, we don't have exact details about this one yet, but this is one that we wanted to touch on. Wolfenstein, Dishonored, and Prey all have collections that have seemingly been rated by the ESRB, and they're coming to Xbox Series X and S. Basically, on the ESRB page, it says Xbox Series consoles, and they're listed as the only platform for any of these collections. So it sounds like they're probably going to be exclusive to Xbox Series X or S, which, again, this rating I think is for a digital package that you can pick up, but I would imagine that if this is actually a thing, that it will just be part of those games with a free upgrade with Spark Delivery. So Sean, does this get you excited to play any of these old games again, like any of the Wolfenstein games or Dishonored games or Prey games? Because it sounds like it's going to be any of those games that were released, like Old Blood or Young Blood or Dishonored 1 or 2. It sounds like they're all getting X enhancements. But what do you think about this, Sean? Yeah,
definitely. Just really quickly, I think like this just goes back to the whole, like, do they spend $7.5 billion and then continue to release games, cross-platform? This is the first indication that is not the case, that these will be exclusive. And dude, like, this is, and I think I share sentiments with Donnie from the Xbox Empire, and like, I'm excited for the Series X just to see what like my current games look like. Like, this is a similar experience to what people in PC do when they go, like, they don't buy a graphics card and go like, I better buy a brand new game with it. It's like, well, I'm going to play the games I'm already playing and just see like how much better that experience is. And that's what I'm really excited about. Wolfenstein is an amazing game. And I do feel like in some cases with some of the Arkane games that a little extra horsepower will actually serve those games really, really well. I'd say Wolfenstein was already pretty optimized, but some of those like Prey and those other Arkane games could use maybe a little bit of help. And I'm trying to keep an open mind on some of those ones. I'm definitely more leaning towards like Wolfenstein, and I've tried Dishonored a little bit. I like it, but I'm not good at those games. And it's so sad for me not to be good at those stealth kind of games. We've talked about Deus Ex in the last couple of weeks as well. But yeah, mostly excited for like the value of Game Pass. Like these are big games, these big collections that will get a remaster, that we're having completely different conversations in Xbox land than people in PlayStation are, where they're trying to figure out like, what am I supposed to do with Spider-Man? It's like, well, in Xbox land, you just get this as part of Game Pass, and it's a great new collection and a bunch of games. So it's just, I don't know, man. That's kind of what excited me most about this story.
Yeah, and I mean, most of these games have been in Game Pass previously or are still there. Like Dishonored 2, for example, is still in Game Pass. Like it hasn't left yet or anything like that. So it'd be awesome to have the back catalog of Bethesda games coming in. Also, if they're doing this for these games, it gets me really excited to see what else Bethesda is going to do with their back catalog as well.
Yeah.
Of games that are already on Xbox One, like that could see series enhancements. We already know that a Series X version of Doom Eternal is coming as well, which will also be on which is already on Game Pass now, and it'll be the upgrade will be free for anyone on Game Pass. So that gets me really excited for the reasons you talked about, where I talked about it before, where the game I want to play first on my Series X is an original Xbox game because I want to see just how much it improves the experience.
Right.
And I think I'm going to be doing that a lot. So even if there isn't a giant launch library of new games, that's okay for me. If someone like me, like, I think like I can go back and revisit a game that I wasn't really into at the time that maybe with the performance changes, maybe I'll get into. Like I'm kind of in the same camp with you with Dishonored, where I would always try and give those games a chance, but I could just never get into them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But
Dishonored 2 has a great setup, man. Dishonored 2 has an amazing story, like with the two characters that you can choose. I think that's awesome. I want to get back into it. But the other thing too, Ryan, that I was thinking about, like, I almost have shied away from my fandom of Fallout, and I don't know why that is, or I didn't know, but the more I think about it is because, like, it's kind of a technical disaster in a lot of ways. Like, and the more you go into the game, like my issues with the game are on the kind of like quality of life stuff. Load times get exceedingly long, and like frame rate in the last couple of missions in particular are horrendous. But like Fallout 4 is great. You know, Fallout 4 is really good, and I could really see maybe them doing like a remaster on Fallout 4, or just seeing how that thing performs with the raw power of Series X. Like, there's so much greatness coming from this Bethesda deal that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and it'll be super exciting to see what they do again, and then not just with Fallout, but with their other IPs. Like, I would love to see like an X version of Doom 2016, one of my favorite games of all time, because there are some moments where the frame rate does stutter a bit in that game, or that game also has really long load times. So I would love to revisit that game now on Series X and see what else they can do with it. And this is just more games on top of the pile of games that we know are getting Series X versions. Because also I know Gearbox talked this week more about the Borderlands 3 version that's coming to Series X as well, and that sounds like it's going to be a huge overhaul with massive frame rate improvements. The fact that you'll be able to do split screen now,
4-player, isn't it? You can do 4-player
split screen.
It's insane. That is absolutely insane. Like, bring back 4-player co-op. That is awesome.
Yeah, so I think that I love to see developers revisiting games like this in such a way where we don't have to rebuy them, where they're going to be free upgrades that make your games better. And if they don't want to offer free upgrades, it sounds like the system is going to do a great job of giving you some kind of upgrade regardless of that. It kind of reminds me of playing PS1 games on the PS2, because the PS2 is backwards compatible with all PS1 games, but those games would take advantage of the PS2 hardware and basically either load faster or provide you some level of upgrade to the graphics. And this is just seems like a very similar situation to me. And when I first got my PS2, that was one of the first things I did. I popped in all my PS1 games and saw just what kind of upgrades I got with them on PS2. And I imagine doing something very similar when Series X comes up. I'm really excited for the Series X now. I'm chopping at the bit for it.
Month away, man.
It's a month away, and I'm ready to just play all my old games all over again. Although we're going to have Assassin's Creed Valhalla and some other stuff to tie us over as well.
Yeah, man.
Until some more games come out. Well, next up, Crossplay is coming to Minecraft Dungeons this November. We got the announcement from Microsoft this week. In December, we also have a new DLC pack called Howling Peak that's going to be added to the game, as well as a new Apocalypse Plus difficulty level. So for people like me who have basically maxed out their character, I'm going to have a new full difficulty mode to go through to play through all the new content. I was actually going to play the new DLC that just came out, the Howling Fjord DLC. I was going to play that this week, but I decided to hold off of it after seeing this news. I'm like, I'm just going to wait until the Apocalypse Plus difficulty comes in December, because I'm super excited to play through it on like the whole game probably with all the new DLC on a higher difficulty. Like Minecraft Dungeons is a game that I continue to love. I was actually playing it a lot this week with doing the 8-Bit Dough SN30 review. I played a lot of it using that controller on my phone. And yeah, I'm excited to see more content from Minecraft Dungeons, a game that I already loved a lot, just getting more love. And it sounds like Mojang is going to be updating this game for a while, which I think is just awesome news for fans of Minecraft Dungeons. Are you at all interested though at revisiting the game after some of this DLC comes out, Sean?
This like October would be the time for me to do it. Like this is, as you mentioned, like there's not really a whole lot going on. I don't like realistically, I don't know, man. Probably not, even though like, which makes it sound like maybe you didn't really like that game, or I didn't like that game all that much, but I really did. Like I liked my time with it. I'm happy with as much time as I spent with it. Crossplay seems like it should have been there at the start. I'm not sure how that's going to speak to like the longevity of the game. It's got to help. I'm just not sure how many other people are playing it. But this is the type of game that kind of escapes our ecosystem, or our ecosphere. Like it doesn't. We don't typically hear people talk about that type of game.
Consistently in the top 5 best-selling games on Switch.
So there you go.
Since it came out. So
there
I would
you go.
imagine lots of people on. Like I think that crossplay patch is going to add so many more people to the online ecosystem just with Switch owners connecting with Xbox owners.
Right. Yeah.
Just that alone in particular. So yeah, I'm super excited for that. Well, Sean, this next announcement got you and I both super hyped. EA have announced NHL 94 Rewind, a new standalone game taking players from the current NHL season and putting them into a new game in the style of NHL 94. It will be included with the purchase of NHL 21. It will be available on October 30th. There's no word yet as to the specific features that are going to be in this game, but I would imagine it's going to have like all the exhibition modes and stuff that you had in NHL 94. And we don't have any word yet as to if you can purchase this separately. So.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's one mode within, NHL 21. So they obviously want you to, pick up the latest version so that you have this.
So it's it's a separate client. So it's not even in the game itself. Like it's a separate downloadable thing.
That's interesting.
Different from the game itself. Yeah, that's why I'm like curious to see if they'll sell this separately for $10 or because I know a lot of people would just buy that instead of buying NHL 21, and I think it would have a pretty big audience. NHL 94 though, an amazing hockey game on the Super Nintendo that I played to death with me and my friends, even long after the N64 and GameCube were out. We were still playing it a ton. So I'm really excited to play this. Are you all at all excited? Like, are you now thinking about picking up NHL 21 this year?
This
Sean,
is my trial. No, probably not. But I'm cheap. I'm very cheap when it comes to gaming. And the EA like access or EA Play now is the best value for me. That's why I do it, is so that I can get my 10-hour trial with these games. I typically get my fill. Like it's rare when I play a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey where I put 120 hours into it. So and I kind of want to just provide that context around it, because it's not. I feel like that should be an okay thing for people to do. That's why people kind of sign up for EA Play, is because that's kind of like their style of gaming. I love that that's an option for me, because I don't know that I would have bought it anyways, but I will subscribe for whatever it is, $35 a year, and get my trial. And then eventually it'll come into the vault probably in like February or March or whatever it is. And then I can play it at that point. So I'm excited that it's going to be a thing. I'm going to be all over it, just in my own kind of weird way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm thinking about maybe picking it up this year. I wasn't planning on it because there is no Series X version. If there was a Series X version of NHL coming this year, it would have been a no-brainer for me.
Good point.
Like I would have picked it up right away. But now that there isn't one, I'm still on the fence. Unlike you, I might just play the trial and then wait.
Just do the trial
later.
Yeah, man.
I mean, we'll see. It's NHL though, so it's hard for me to. I also haven't picked up NHL in numerous years, but there's also all those games are on the vault, and that's kind of why I held off picking them up.
Yeah, exactly.
Last news story that
coming to Game Pass, by the way. It'll be in Game Pass. Holy crap! True. I totally forgot about that.
It'll be in Game Pass. It'll be right there. Also, they posted the conversions. So I didn't have them written down. The conversions, if you already subscribe to EA Play, you'll get a Game Pass conversion based on how many months you have left of EA Play.
It only went up to a certain amount of months. Yeah, there was only a certain amount of months though. Like I've got about a year left because I just signed up. So their conversion that they gave didn't apply to me. Like I have more than what they capped it out at. So I'll be interested to see what happens.
Fair enough. Last thing real quick, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered got announced. It's an HD remastered of the Xbox 360 racing game. It'll be available on Xbox One and not Series X on November 6th. I mean, you'll be able to play it on your Series X, but it's not getting a Series X version. Need for Speed, the reason I wanted to put this on here is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit is a game that I just think people skipped out on because it came out at a weird time during the 360's life cycle. But this is a game from the Burnout developers doing Need for Speed game, and it's awesome. Like
it is awesome.
It's probably my favorite Need for Speed game. So I definitely think it's a worthy pickup at the price they have it going for it. I think it's like $30 US. So I definitely
thank God And thank God EA is actually looking at its back catalog a little bit and going like, there's some good stuff here, and revisiting it in, I think, in a classy kind of way. This looks good. I think where there's rumors about this Mass Effect thing that are happening as well. This is a good EA episode, Ryan. This is good. We got the Star Wars.
Sure.
We got NHL.
They're back in the good graces, my friend. They're
Yeah,
not
man.
the worst company in America anymore.
Not right now.
Let's let some of our friends into the car with us. It's time for the carpool. And we got quite a few questions this week. So we'll start with Jack Kozma at Thordahall. And I hope I said that right. It's THORDAHLL. And he asks, so if Xbox were to buy Sega, which I don't think they will, but if they did, what Dreamcast game or Saturn game would you like to see made into a new game? So, for example, Panzer Dragoon Saga or Blue Stinger were the games that Jack referenced. Obviously, Sean, I don't think you played too much Sega Saturn.
Not too much Sega Saturn, no.
A little bit of Dreamcast, though, I think, right? What is there a game from Sega's back catalog, do you think? And I'll kind of open it up for any Sega games that you want to throw in there. What game from Sega's back catalog would you love to see come to the new consoles?
Can I do a little twist if that's okay? Because I would like, if they were to buy Sega, I would like to see Virtua Fighter characters in Killer Instinct. Is kind of what I would like to see. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah, for me, because I actually collect Sega Saturn games because I'm a crazy person because they're stupid expensive. The game that I would love to see most would actually be a collection. I would love to see a Shining Force collection. Shining Force was kind of Sega's answer to Fire Emblem. Like it's a
nice.
Top-down
tactical
strategy RPG tactical series. All those games were super awesome. They were developed by Camelot before they did Golden Sun, so you know that they're quality. That I just think people missed out on. Shining Force 1 and 2 are part of the Sega Genesis collection, but I'd love to see a collection of 1 and 2 Shining Force CD, which is like a stupidly expensive Sega CD game, which is it's really good. But also the Sega Saturn version of Shining Force 3, which is also stupidly expensive. It's like $500 a copy for the North American version. I would love to see
How do
like
you
a
know
Shining...
these things? I love like even the pick of the game and the price of them.
Shining Force is one of my favorite series, Sean. It's one of the
I love that
series that got me into RPGs. So I'm actively looking for these games, and they're stupidly expensive. So yeah, it's just that's the thing I would love to see. Panzer Dragoon Saga, like Jack mentioned, it's also a $2,000 Sega Saturn game. And it's an amazing RPG that I would also love to see on Xbox, obviously. But
See, I'm over here thinking about like Daytona USA, like put that into Forza kind of a thing. Like I would love to see some of those crossovers like that, rather than, you can definitely bring back some of those games, but I would like to see a little bit of those. Like there's these giant buckets that Microsoft can put some of these properties into. And I think that would be really interesting to see them celebrate old games, old properties, and bring them kind of like refresh some of the games that people kind of go, yeah, I mean, like Microsoft has like Forza and it has like whatever, like inject some other fandom into those games and people will start to pay attention to them, I think.
Exactly. Like if they had access to those IPs, I think that they could assign like some of their own studios to work on some of them, like Jet Set Radio Future. Like get someone on.
Oh my gosh,
get someone to make a new Jet Set Radio game, for example. Well, next up, we got Seumas MacIsaac at Famous Seumas. He asks a spooky question. You learn that your unknown great uncle has passed away and has given you an inheritance of $1 million. However, in order to get the money, you must survive the whole night in a haunted house or any other horror setting from any other video game. What horror setting from a video game would you choose, Sean Caprigo?
Well, I kind of want to choose one that's not spooky.
Well, that's not the game. That's not the game.
The spookiest one, like the spookiest thing that I can possibly think of is PT. I know this is an Xbox show, but like PT is like the creepiest thing I've ever played. It's got to be. But I don't know, like what would be fun? I would like to do, if this counts, I'd like to be in like the mall from, oh my gosh, why am I forgetting? The guy with the camera, the zombies.
Oh, Dead Rising.
Frank, what's it? Yeah, Dead Rising.
The Willamette Mall, Sean. That's the Willamette Mall.
Oh, wow, you even remember the mall. I don't remember the damn game's name. I would want to do that because like you have so many things at your disposal at the very least.
You have the orange juice. You can throw it at the zombies.
Exactly, or mannequin heads. Yeah, and grab a tractor or whatever, a lawnmower, and just mow them all down. That's probably. I mean, I feel like my chances are going to be low of survival in any situation, and like that many zombies sounds like you're not going to make out of that alive. But you do have you're going to have fun doing it. That's my answer.
Very nice. Yeah, that's actually a really good one because you can have a lot of fun with that. I'm gonna go ahead and say Silent Hill because I mean, I'm sure I'm smart enough to find a way to get out of that spooky town, right? Right?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure
Yeah,
Pyramid
totally.
won't catch me at all or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
no, I don't think you're getting out of there at all, dude. I don't
I also
think so.
really like the Silent Hill games, so I wanted to give it a shout out on the show. But that,
Yeah.
that was my ulterior motive, Sean.
Nice.
Well, next up, Joel, aka Falcon, at Joel, aka Falcon asks, "Hey guys, do the reports of the Series X overheating worry you two at all? Could we have a Red Ring of Death version 2 on our hands? I thought this was debunked, but I keep seeing stuff about that." Joel, I'm going to put your thoughts at ease with a little video that I've actually included in the podcast description of this video from Spawnwave.
Spawnwave. I watched the same thing.
Yeah, so he's a tech YouTuber. He does a lot of breakdowns on consoles and a lot of console reviews and repairs. And something that he was talking about was just the fact that the console gets hot to the touch, which I think was the criticism we were hearing, is a perfectly normal thing. In fact, if you touch your Xbox One X while it's turned off,
It's hot as hell.
It's hot, and it's supposed to do that because it's venting the heat. Like if it was, and I'm going to throw this out there, we would have seen anecdotal evidence of it overheating by if you heard audible noise from the fan. But because so many people are talking about how whisper quiet the console is, that just doesn't seem correct to me. Like I don't feel we have a ring situation coming up. I mean, as someone who went through 11 Xbox 360s because of Red Ring, I'm definitely always wary for any new console that heating issues might be an issue. But from everything I'm seeing with Series X, that doesn't appear to be an issue. So I would say I feel pretty confident that that's not going to be an issue at all. Sean, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, well, I mean, not too much more that you already kind of touched on. Just that, like, this is just one of those stories that is being fueled, I think, by, kind of naysayers and haters. They're like, oh, snap, like, there's something here. There's a little glimpse. Like, let's try to make this into something that it isn't. And it's pulling heat away from where it's being generated, which is actually in the center of it. So you're actually having heat coming out of the top. So that means that it's working. The fact that the heat is escaping. Even PlayStation 3, I think they mentioned in that Spawnwave video, there was instances where the heat was actually not being pulled away and the fan would blow cold air. So that means that it wasn't actually grabbing the hot air from where it's sitting. And then that was what was causing the damage with the yellow light with the PlayStation 3. The fact that the people are feeling the heat. One other thing that they had mentioned was that the heat sink, the big like block thing that actually pulls the heat off of the processor, sits up against the side of the box of the tower.
Right.
So that's kind of what one thing people are feeling is actually like heat sinks are supposed to be like hot. They're supposed to pull the heat off the thing that's generating it, and then they blow air through that. So yeah, for now, all we know is that it's like that's kind of what you would expect with like heat management and things like that. We haven't heard anything about these things actually like breaking or bricking or faltering or crashing or anything like that.
Or
that's
even like
the true
crashing
sign.
based on heat issues. Like we would have heard about that, I think, by now.
Yeah, but I think it's still good to practice like a little bit of skepticism, like to just be aware that that's a possibility. I'm not saying like, yeah, definitely not going to be an issue because there's no way for us to know that, but it's definitely not like, it's not as catastrophic as people are making it to sound like, I don't think.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's the game-breaking issue that the Red Ring of Death was. Well, last question before we go. Co-op Mode Podcast at Co-op Mode Pod asks, what Xbox IP would you like to see any of the ZeniMax studios work on, Sean?
Do you have anything for this? Because I kind of just want them to work on Quake. That's their own.
There's that. I mean, I would love to see a Gears game done by id Software. That I think would be like a Gears spinoff. Like I would
like
love
a
to
first
see,
person.
Yeah, like a first person.
That's a great answer.
Game done by either the Doom team or another team at id Software because they have multiple teams there. I would love to see some kind of Gears offshoot game that's first person to do something really different with that universe. Not only that, but that universe I think really fits the vibe of id Software as a studio and really fits their IP. So I feel like that's kind of
Machine Games might be if I was to come up with a counter to that, I would say Machine Games might be a good, because Gears has a bit more like weight to it and Doom is so light and like
That's
you're
true.
very fast and Gears seems a little bit more plotting in that way, that like more thoughtful. That would be, that's a really good thought though. Holy crap, dude.
The
really
other
like
one
that.
though I'm going to throw out there as well that kind of just occurred to me, an Elder Scrolls tactical RPG by In Exile. I think would be really cool. Like not an open world game, but more just like like almost like Wasteland, but in the Elder Scrolls universe. For example.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty cool.
Nice, man. I like that a lot.
So what about you, Sean?
Well, I'm good with just machine games doing gears. I'll just throw that on there. Yeah.
I mean, they just have to make Quake at this point, right, John?
I just want Quake.
Just
That's
make
it, man.
Quake. Just make Quake come back. Well, before we go, Sean, plugs go.
Well, you can find me in my car or on video, youtube.com/the Xbox Drive, hopefully very soon, or on Twitter at Sean Capri. And you can support the show at patreon.com/Yumi Capri.
As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. That's TURFORD, because everybody always asks. You can also find us on Twitter at the Xbox Drive. So for Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 161 of the Xbox Drive. Yes, it's a palindrome, folks, and we're out. Bye.
Monopoly days are back, baby.